The gathering storm, the space around Proxima Centauri shimmered with an unnatural light as reality itself seemed to tear open. Through the dimensional rift came ships of impossible size and alien design. Their hulls were black as the void between. Stars, covered in strange symbols that seemed to writhe and move in the darkness. These were the vessels of the Catherian Collective, and they had come to harvest another civilization. Supreme Overlord Dexera stood motionless on the command deck of her flagship, the Endless Hunger. Her 6 arms moved with practiced precision across holographic controls, while her compound eyes studied the tactical displays. The Catherians had evolved from insectoid creatures on a harsh world where only the strongest survived. Now they brought that same ruthless efficiency to their conquest of the galaxy. 200 ships filled the void. Around Proxima's outer planets, dreadnoughts the size of small moons, swarms of fighter craft that moved like living things, and harvest vessels designed to strip entire worlds of their resources. For 3,000 years, the Collective had swept across the galaxy like a plague. Of locusts, 67 species had fallen before their might. The humans would be number 68. Report, Dexera commanded in the clicking, chittering language of her people. Her voice carried the authority of absolute power. Commander Vextok, her second in command, scuttled forward on his 4 legs. His carapace bore the scars of countless battles. Supreme Overlord, our sensors have detected the human colony ships in the inner system. 8 vessels total. Their technology appears primitive. Chemical rockets, fusion reactors, basic electromagnetic shields. Vexerous mandibles clicked together in what might have been amusement. How disappointingly simple. Their ships look like metal boxes with engines attached. No artistic sense whatsoever. The harvest will be swift. Supreme Overlord, our intelligence indicates this species has only recently achieved interstellar travel. They pose no threat to the Collective. The Supreme Overlord moved to the massive viewing screen that dominated the front of the bridge. In the distance, 8 human ships drifted in formation near Proxima's second planet. They were indeed simple-looking craft, boxy and utilitarian. Nothing like the elegant death-dealing vessels of the Collective. Open communications with the lead vessel, Dexera ordered. Let us see what manner of creatures these humans are. On the bridge of the Terran research vessel Endeavour, Commander Elena Vasquez sat calmly in her captain's chair. She was a woman, in her 40s, with steel-grey hair pulled back in a tight bun and steady. Brown eyes that had seen their share of difficult situations. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Everything looked exactly as it should on a peaceful research mission. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the alien flagship, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the communications station. She was young and eager, with short black hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Put it through, Sarah. Commander Vasquez straightened in her chair and composed her features into an expression of curious concern. The main screen flickered and the image of Supreme Overlord Dexera appeared. The alien was a terrifying sight, towering over 3 meters tall with a chitinous exoskeleton that gleamed in the bridge lighting. Her 6 arms ended in razor-sharp claws, and her compound eyes reflected the light like black mirrors. I am supreme. Overlord Dexera of the Catherian Collective, the alien announced through the universal translator. Her voice was like the sound of breaking glass mixed with the buzz of angry insects. You have entered space, claimed by the Collective. This is forbidden. Commander Vasquez kept her expression neutral, though inside she felt a familiar cold anger. The collective had been responsible for the destruction of dozens of civilizations. Today, that would end. I am Commander Elena Vasquez of the Terran research vessel Endeavour, she replied calmly. We were not aware this system was claimed. We are conducting peaceful scientific research. Vexera's mandibles spread wide in what the translator helpfully identified as contempt. Research. How quaint. Your species is unknown to us, which means you are weak and primitive. The collective has use for your technology and your people. You will surrender immediately. What exactly are you asking us? To surrender? Vasquez asked, though she already knew the answer. Everything. Your ships, your technology, your knowledge, your lives. Those deemed useful will serve the collective as workers. The rest will be processed for biological materials. This is the way of things. Dr. Marcus Chen looked up from his science station. He was a thin man with graying temples and kind eyes behind thick glasses. Commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures from their fleet. Weapons that could crack planets. Commander. Vasquez nodded slightly. Marcus was playing his part perfectly. Supreme Overlord, your offer is generous, but I need time to consult with my fellow captains and our homeworld. This is not a decision I can make alone. Dexterous compound eyes reflected annoyance. You dare to negotiate with the collective. Very well, you have one standard. Hour to decide. After that, we will take what we want from your wreckage. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge of the Endeavour in relative quiet. Well, that went exactly as expected, said Chief Engineer David Park from his station near the back of the bridge. He was Sarah's older brother, a stocky man with calloused hands and an easy smile. Standard collective procedure. Demand surrender. Threaten extinction. Claim everything. Commander Vasquez activated her command communicator. All ships, secure Channel Alpha. Time for a family meeting. 7 additional faces appeared on screens around the bridge. These were the other commanders. Of the small human fleet, Captain Robert Martinez of the science vessel Pioneer looked grim but determined. Captain Lisa Wong of the survey ship Pathfinder was checking something on her tablet. Captain Ahmed Hassan of the research vessel Discovery was reviewing tactical data. The others, Captains Thompson, Kowalski, Jackson, and Okafor, all wore the same expression of quiet confidence. Everyone heard that conversation, Vasquez said. Standard collective behavior. The question is, are we ready to drop the act? Captain Martinez leaned forward. My crew is getting tired of pretending to be helpless scientists. The fake reactor. Signatures are holding, but our people want to show these bugs what humanity is really capable of. Sensor analysis is complete, reported Captain Wong. 200 ships, exactly matching collective fleet doctrine. Nothing we haven't seen in the simulations. Standard dreadnought configuration, fighter swarms, harvest vessels, no surprises. Dr. Chen looked up from his instruments. I've been monitoring their communications. They're using basic encryption protocols. We've been reading their messages for the past hour. They're already discussing how to divide up our ships and which humans would make the best slaves. Commander Vasquez felt her jaw tighten. The collective had enslaved billions of sentient beings across their empire. They treated thinking creatures like livestock, processing them for biological materials or working them to death in their factories and mines. Time check, she asked. 57 minutes remaining on their ultimatum, Sarah Kim reported. Plenty of time, Vasquez replied. All ships, final systems check. Make sure the holographic projectors are holding steady. We need them to see exactly what we want them to see until the moment of truth. Lieutenant Commander James Torres, the Endeavour's tactical officer, looked up from his station. He was a quiet man with steady hands and sharp eyes. Commander, the fake weapon signatures are perfect. Their sensors show we have basic plasma cannons and maybe some missile launchers. They have no idea about our real armament. Good work, James. How are our actual systems? All weapon arrays are charged and ready. Point defense grids are online. Quantum torpedoes are loaded and armed. The new gravity manipulation system is stable and ready for deployment. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the fleet's diplomatic advisor, spoke up from her station. She was a woman in her 50s, with silver hair and intelligent green eyes. Commander, I've been studying their communication patterns and body language. This Thexera is typical collective leadership, arrogant, ruthless, but not entirely. Stupid. If we demonstrate our true capabilities, she might be reasonable. That's what we're hoping for, Alina Vasquez replied. The goal isn't to start a war. It's to end one before it begins. Captain Hassan's voice crackled over the communicator. My engineering team has finished the final preparations. The moment we drop the disguises, every collective ship will know exactly what they're facing. Commander Vasquez looked around her bridge. Her crew was ready. 8 ships that looked like harmless research vessels were about to reveal themselves as some of the most advanced warships humanity had ever built. The Terran Defense Corps had been preparing for this day for over a decade, ever since they first learned of the collective's existence. All ships, stand by, Vasquez ordered. In 45 minutes, the Catherian Collective is going to learn something new about humanity. On the bridge of the Endless Hunger, Supreme Overlord Dexera was reviewing the final attack plans with her commanders. The human ships continued to drift helplessly in space, their primitive sensors no doubt overwhelmed by the sight of the collective fleet. Status report, she commanded. Commander Vexstock consulted his displays. All ships report ready for the harvest operation. The humans show no signs of attempting to flee. Their communications suggest they are debating surrender terms. Excellent. What do our analysts say about their technology? Primitive but potentially useful, Supreme Overlord. Their fusion reactors are crude but efficient. Their computer systems are basic but might have some interesting programming. Their weapons are laughably weak. Dexera clicked her mandibles. In satisfaction, and their biology, standard carbon-based oxygen-breathing mammals. Nothing unusual. They appear to be suitable for basic labor tasks. The younger specimens might be useful for more specialized work. The Supreme Overlord moved to examine the tactical display more closely. 8 small ships against 200 of the collective's finest. It would barely qualify as a battle. More like pest control. 30 minutes remaining, Vexstock reported. Shall I begin final preparations for the attack? Yes. Deploy the fighter swarms for intimidation. I want the humans to see exactly how hopeless their situation is. Perhaps it will encourage them to surrender without resistance. 1,000 small fighter craft launched from the collective ships, forming a complex pattern in space around the human vessels. Each fighter was armed with weapons that could tear through the primitive human ships like paper. On the Endeavour, Sarah Kim looked up from her communications console. Commander, they're launching fighters. Looks like they want to intimidate us. Commander Vasquez smiled slightly. Let them play their games. How much time left? 28 minutes, Commander. Perfect, Sarah. Open a channel to the collective flagship. It's time for round 2 of our little diplomatic dance. The screen flickered and Vexara's terrifying visage appeared again. Behind her, the bridge of the Endless Hunger buzzed with activity as her crew prepared for battle. Have you reached a decision, human? The Supreme Overlord demanded. We have, Supreme Overlord, Commander Vasquez replied calmly. We've consulted with our respective governments and scientific institutions. Your offer has been carefully considered, and we must respectfully decline. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the background noise on the collective bridge seemed to stop. Dexera's compound eyes fixed on the human commander with undisguised shock. You, refuse. The alien finally managed. You dare refuse the Catherian collective? Do you see the force arrayed against you? We have conquered civilizations 1,000 times more advanced than yours. Commander Vasquez remained perfectly calm. Supreme Overlord, I believe you may have misunderstood our capabilities. Perhaps a demonstration would be appropriate. Demonstration. Vexara's voice rose to a shriek. I will demonstrate the power of the collective. All ships, attack. Destroy these impudent creatures. The transmission cut off abruptly. Commander Vasquez looked around her bridge one final time. Her crew sat ready at their stations, waiting for the order that would change everything. All ships, she said quietly into her communicator, drop the disguise. Show them who we really are. The Revelation 200 Catherian warships opened fire simultaneously. The void around Proxima Centauri erupted in brilliant flashes of energy, as plasma cannons, quantum disruptors, and antimatter torpedoes streaked through space toward the 8 human vessels. It was enough concentrated firepower to level continents, to shatter moons, to reduce entire fleets to cosmic dust. Supreme Overlord Dexera watched from her command throne, her compound eyes reflecting the deadly light show. This was how it always ended. Overwhelming force, total destruction, and then the harvest. In 30 years of conquest, no species had ever surprised the collective. Today would be different. The moment the collective weapons fired, the 8 human ships changed. The boxy utilitarian hulls flickered like mirages and vanished completely. In their place appeared vessels of impossible beauty and obvious deadly purpose, sleek angular forms that seemed to absorb light itself, covered in sensor arrays and weapon ports that spoke of technology far beyond anything the collective had. Encountered, the incoming wave of destruction struck the human fleet and simply disappeared. Point defense systems activated with blinding speed, creating walls of precisely targeted energy that intercepted every plasma bolt, every torpedo, every directed energy beam. The human ships emerged from the devastating attack completely unharmed. Impossible. Commander Vexdoc whispered, his mandibles clicking in shock. Our sensors, ... They were wrong. Completely wrong. On the bridge of the Endless Hunger, chaos erupted as officers shouted readings and tactical displays flickered with error messages. Vexara's 6 arms moved frantically across her controls, trying to make sense of what her sensors were telling. What are those ships? She demanded. Where did they come from? Supreme Overlord, Vexdoc's voice cracked with fear. I don't think those are the same vessels we were targeting. The energy readings are off the scale. These ships they're more advanced than anything in our databases. On the bridge of the TDC Endeavour, Commander Vasquez sat calmly in her chair as chaos unfolded around her. The holographic disguises had finally been dropped, revealing the ship's true nature. Instead of a simple research vessel, the Endeavour was a cutting-edge battlecruiser of the Terran Defense Corps. bristling with weapons that represented the pinnacle of human engineering. "Status report," Vasquez ordered calmly. "Lieutenant Commander." Torres looked up from his tactical station with obvious satisfaction. "All incoming fire neutralized, Commander. Point defense grid performed flawlessly. 0 damage to any ship in the fleet. Excellent work, James, Sarah. Open channels to all collective ships. I think it's time for proper introductions." Commander Vasquez's image appeared on screens throughout the Catharian fleet. She looked relaxed and confident, not at all like someone whose ship had just been attacked by overwhelming force. "Supreme Overlord Dexera," she began politely. "I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary to assess your intentions. Allow me to properly introduce myself. I am Commander Elena Vasquez of the Terran Defense Corps, commanding Task Force Sentinel on the collective flagship. Bex stared at the human commander in disbelief. "Terran Defense Corps. Your ships were research vessels. Primitive exploration craft." "I'm afraid not, Supreme Overlord. What you observed were holographic projections designed to conceal our true nature. We've been monitoring collective movements for quite some time, and we knew this day would come." Dr. Chen looked up from his science station. "Commander, I'm reading panic signals from multiple collective ships. Their fleet cohesion is breaking down." Dexera's voice rose to a shriek. "This is impossible. No species has technology that advanced." "You are bluffing," Commander Vasquez smiled slightly. "I understand your skepticism. Perhaps a demonstration would help clarify the situation. Pioneer, if you would." Captain Martinez's voice came over the com. "With pleasure, Elena." The TDC Pioneer, which had appeared to be a simple science vessel moments before, rotated gracefully to face a cluster of collective cruisers. A single weapon port opened on its hull, glowing with blue-white energy. What emerged was not the devastating beam of destruction the Catharians expected, but something far more sophisticated. A pulse of quantum energy washed over 12 collective warships. Instantly, their weapons powered down, their engines went silent, and their lights dimmed to emergency levels. The ships remained intact and their crews unharmed, but they were completely helpless. "Quantum Cascade Disruptor," Captain Martinez explained calmly. "It temporarily overloads your primary power systems without causing permanent damage. Your ships can be repaired, your crews are safe, but you're effectively neutralized." Dexera's mandibles spread wide in shock. You disabled 12 dreadnoughts with a single shot. How is this possible?" "Technology, Supreme Overlord," Commander Vasquez replied. "The same thing you were hoping to steal from us, ironically." Commander Vexdoc scuttled up to his superior's command throne. "Supreme Overlord, we must retreat immediately. These humans have capabilities we cannot match." But Dexera's pride would not allow retreat. She had never fled from battle, never shown weakness before lesser species. "All ships, attack formation Beta. Launch all fighters. I will not be humiliated by mammals." The remaining collective ships moved into attack formation, while thousands of fighter craft swarmed toward the human fleet. It was an impressive display of force. Exactly the kind of overwhelming assault that had crushed 67 other species. Captain Wong's voice came over the communications channel. "Commander, they're launching everything they have. Should we respond in kind?" "Negative, Lisa. Let's keep this educational rather than destructive. Use the new gravity manipulation system. Show them something they've never seen before." The TDC Pathfinder moved to the center of the human formation. A section of its hull opened to reveal a device that looked like a crystalline sphere surrounded by rotating rings. The device began to glow with an inner light that seemed to bend. The stars around it, space itself began to warp and twist around the human fleet. The fabric of reality rippled outward in visible waves, creating distortions that confused sensors and disrupted navigation. The swarm of collective fighters found themselves caught in gravity fields that pulled them in different directions, their formations scattering like leaves in a storm. Gravity manipulation field, Dr. Chen announced for the benefit of their audience. We can create localized distortions in space-time itself. Your fighters are trapped in artificial gravity wells. They're unharmed but unable to navigate or attack effectively. Supreme Overlord Dexera watched in growing horror as her most feared weapons were rendered useless by technology she couldn't even comprehend. The humans were not destroying her forces, they were playing with them, demonstrating superiority so complete that resistance seemed pointless. "Stop," she finally whispered, then louder, "Stop. Cease your attack." The gravity distortions faded immediately, releasing the trapped fighters. The quantum disruption fields around the disabled ships powered down, allowing them to restore their systems. In seconds, the entire collective fleet was returned to full operational status. "We're not attacking, Supreme Overlord," Commander Vasquez said gently. "We're demonstrating. There's a difference." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward at her diplomatic station. "Commander, their bioreadings suggest extreme stress and confusion. The Supreme Overlord is experiencing something like shock." Dexera's voice was barely above a whisper when she spoke again. "Who are you? What are you?" "We're humans, Supreme Overlord. The same species you were planning to harvest an hour ago. The difference is that we've had time to prepare for this meeting." Captain Hassan's image appeared on a side screen. "Commander, should I explain about the monitoring stations?" "Please do, Ahmed." Captain Hassan addressed the collective fleet directly. "Supreme Overlord, for the past 15 years, humanity has been tracking collective movements throughout this sector. We've observed your harvest operations. We know about the Regilian massacre, the enslavement of the vegan colonies, the biological processing of the Altair system populations." Dexera's compound eyes widened. Those were classified collective operations, known only to the highest levels of command. "We've been preparing," Commander Vasquez continued. "Building ships, developing weapons, training crews, not to conquer, but to protect. The galaxy has suffered under collective rule for long enough. You cannot stand against the entire collective empire," Vexara protested. "We have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers." Actually, Captain Thompson's calm voice joined the conversation. "Our intelligence suggests you have approximately 4,700 active warships spread across 43 systems. Your population has declined 18% over the past century due to internal conflicts and resource depletion. Your technology has stagnated because you rely on stolen innovations rather than original research. The precision of the human intelligence was staggering. These were state secrets that even most collective commanders didn't know." Commander Vasquez stood up from her captain's chair. "Supreme Overlord, I'm going to make you an offer. Not the kind of offer you usually make, but a real choice." What choice?" "You can continue the old ways. Keep harvesting civilizations, enslaving populations, processing sentient beings for raw materials. If you choose that path, you'll find humanity standing in your way at every turn. We won't conquer your empire, but we'll protect every species you try to harvest." Vexara S. Mandibles clicked nervously. And the alternative? Peace, cooperation. Your people have skills and knowledge that could benefit the galaxy, if applied constructively rather than destructively. Help us build something better than an empire based on slavery and fear. The communications channel fell silent. Across 200 collective ships, officers and crew members contemplated a possibility they had never imagined: an end to the endless cycle of conquest and harvest that had defined their civilization for millennia. Finally, Dexera spoke. You would trust us. After everything the collective has done, trust is earned, Supreme Overlord. But everyone deserves a chance to choose a different path. The question is, what do you choose? Commander Vexstock approached, his superior's throne. Supreme Overlord, perhaps we should consider this offer. These humans have shown mercy when they could have shown destruction. That is ... unusual. Dexera looked around her bridge at her officers and crew. She saw fear, yes, but also something else. Hope, maybe. The possibility of a future that didn't require endless war. Commander Vasquez, she said slowly, if the collective were to consider this peaceful alternative, what would you require? 3 things, Vasquez replied promptly. First, an immediate end to all harvest operations. No more enslaving or processing of sentient species. Second, the release and repatriation of all current slaves and prisoners. And third, participation in a galactic council where disputes are resolved through diplomacy rather than force. The terms were far more generous than anything the collective had ever offered a defeated enemy, more generous than they deserved. If Dexera was honest with herself, this council, she asked, would the collective have a voice in it? An equal voice, Supreme Overlord. The goal isn't human domination, it's cooperation. Dr. Rodriguez smiled at her station. Commander, I'm reading significant changes in their stress indicators. This conversation is having the desired effect. Dexera was quiet for a long moment, her 6 arms moving unconsciously across her controls as she thought. Finally, she looked directly at Commander Vasquez through the communication link. Very well, human. The Catherian Collective accepts your terms. We will begin implementing the changes immediately. Across the human fleet, bridge crews erupted in quiet celebration. 15 years of preparation, of building and training and hoping had led to this moment. Not a glorious battle, but something far more valuable, the prevention of countless future wars. Commander Vasquez nodded formally. Thank you, Supreme Overlord. This is the beginning of a new era for both our species. Dr. Rodriguez will coordinate with your diplomatic staff to establish formal protocols. As the 2 fleets began the delicate process of transformation from enemies to allies, a new chapter in galactic history began. The age of the collective's harvest was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it had all started with 8 human ships and the courage to smile in the face of impossible odds.